Plumes of smoke and thunderous explosions echoed over Gaza on Tuesday, where Israeli planes and tanks destroyed clusters of homes. Thousands of Gaza residents, many of them already homeless and displaced several times over, again took flight as Israel issued new orders to evacuate. Local health authorities said Israeli gunfire and military strikes across the enclave had killed at least 112 people and wounded more than 400 in the past 24 hours. This house in Zawaida was struck on Monday. Mahmoud Akilan was injured in the strike and pleaded for a ceasefire.
I call on the negotiators to solve it, to compromise a little, for the people. After all, do you want no one to remain in Gaza?
The fresh Israeli onslaught comes as Israel's Strategic Affairs Minister Ron Dermer, a top confidant to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, was in the U.S. to discuss a potential truce with President Donald Trump. But there are no signs of an imminent agreement. Netanyahu on Tuesday said he plans to travel to the U.S. next week to meet with Trump in person. After a 6-week ceasefire at the end of this year, talks on extending the truce in the nearly 21-month war have stalled, and the humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza worsened. On Tuesday, more than 170 non-governmental organizations called for a U.S. and Israeli-backed food aid distribution scheme in Gaza to be dismantled over concerns it is putting civilians at risk of death and injury. Attempts by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation to deliver desperately needed food and supplies were marred by repeated bloodshed as Israeli forces reportedly opened fire near throngs of Palestinians seeking aid. The GHF uses private U.S. security, largely bypassing a UN-led system that Israel says had let militants divert aid. The United Nations says more than 400 Palestinians have been killed at the aid sites. On Monday, Israel's military acknowledged that Palestinian civilians were harmed at aid distribution sites. In a statement, the military spokesperson said, quote, "Thorough examinations were conducted in the Southern Command and instructions were issued to forces in the field following lessons learned." It followed a Friday report in the newspaper Haaretz that Israel's military advocate general had ordered an investigation into possible war crimes over allegations that Israeli forces deliberately fired at Palestinian civilians near the sites.
Unfortunately, there were a few incidents.
Israel's ambassador to the United Nations on Monday acknowledged the violence, but blamed Hamas.
We're taking efforts in order to guarantee the security of the perimeter and push Hamas away from those areas. Hamas is trying to make those areas not safe for people to come in.
The war began when Hamas fighters stormed into Israel on October 7, 2023, killed 1,200 people, most of them civilians, and took 250 hostages back to Gaza in a surprise attack. Israel's subsequent military assault has killed more than 56,000 Palestinians, most of them civilians, according to the Gaza Health Ministry, displaced almost the entire population of 2.3 million, and plunged the enclave into a humanitarian crisis.